I haven't really been I haven't been really been doing great. It's been just a hell of a week, hasn't it? Gosh. So I was on a travel event trip down to Austin, and we road trip down there Sunday to Wednesday. And Wednesday afternoon, we were working. I was doing a podcast for some attendees, and my friend made some type of comment or something like that about what happened, and I didn't. I overheard it, but I didn't really like hear the details of it. I didn't hear the name or anything like that. But like retrospectively, that's what he said. But when I heard it, I was like, oh, well, that's kind of weird. And so I didn't think anything of it, and I kept on, finished my job, finished the podcast for the people, for the attendees. And then I got my phone out. I was like, what is he talking about? And started looking around, searching stuff up, and started to see the videos that were circulating. And I mean, it was horrific. It was horrific. And in this moment, like, I just like, is this real? In my history, I didn't personally know Charlie Kirk. I remember when I first moved to Texas and I was going to UT Arlington. I remember walking into an auditorium and there was a Turning Point USA meeting. There's somebody talking. I don't know who it was. I'm not going to say it was Charlie Kirk. I just don't know who it was. I don't remember that much of it, but I remember seeing the signs, Turning Points. I remember this. I was like, oh man, that's really cool, And at that point I was older. I was like 24. I had moved, long story, but I was there, and so I was older. So I was moving into a more, from my liberal mindset into growing up and getting older. And I was like, man, this is great. Supporting America, supporting being on college campuses, like, coming after the youth, because that's the next generation. Like, man, I was all for it. Like, that was great. And then I didn't hear anything much about Charlie Kirk. I mean, I followed Turning Point, and followed some of those other organizations that kind of got birthed out of that time period. And I didn't think nothing of it. I started a family, and I started following Charlie Kirk probably a couple of years ago. And I didn't listen to him every week or every day or anything like that, but I would go out and find a couple of videos, see some of his debates. And I was a supporter of his. I agreed with with a lot of what he talked about, with his faith belief, with his American beliefs and standards and values, and having the the fortitude or the courage to do it on open mic on a college campus. Like, that's courageous, man. Like, he felt called to do that, and I was happy to support that. Now, whether you agreed with him or not, in my mind, seeing a public execution, like, that's what it was. It was an assassination. That's what it is. It was a public execution of somebody speaking the truth and who was willing to just have a conversation. And what was attacked was the freedom of speech. It's still surreal. Like, I'm recording this on the 12th. Like 9/10, this happens. 9/11, 24-year anniversary of the Twin Towers. Like, I just struggling for the past couple of days. I got injured on my way back from my trip, so I just haven't been feeling great. So just been a whirlwind of emotions over the past couple of days, and I just haven't been feeling good. But this was a public execution of somebody who was exercising their First Amendment right, freedom of speech. He was willing to have conversations. And that's all that he was wanting to do. Let's get civil discourse out. Because some people of certain ideologies don't want you to speak. They don't want you to say your ideas. They're unwilling to have a conversation with you. They are so emotionally heightened by everything that you can't have just a regular conversation, even if it's a disagreement. Like that's what civil discourse is. Like you don't have to agree on everything that everybody says. That's impossible. But you should at least be able to have a conversation. Because if you can't defend your own beliefs and you are so concerned that this other person who is more convicted than you is going to sway you and you're not even willing to give that even an option, this is where stuff like this happens. People kill you, or they get in fights with you, or they get so angry with you. It's because they're not even willing to have a conversation with you, because deep down they're probably scared that they've got nothing to back their beliefs. They've got nothing to back their false values, their false beliefs. Stunned. I've just been. I don't know how there. It's hard to put into words what this experience is, and I can't even think. Like obviously this what I'm experiencing, what a ton of other people are experiencing, doesn't hold a candle to what his wife and kids are experiencing. I know the kids are young, but I mean, I've got a wife and I've got 4 kids. Like, I can't imagine the pain and the grief and the sorrow that they're going through. And that was also part of like just hard to believe that this happened. Like, okay, I agreed with this guy. I liked this guy. I liked watching him. I liked watching his debates and things that he was talking about. But knowing that he's a husband and a father, and he got killed for what he believed in and his willingness to have a conversation and to talk and exercise his freedom of speech, like, and now that his wife no longer has a husband, and now his children no longer have a dad. I just can't imagine the pain. I'm still struggling. I'm still trying to understand and process this. And I think the struggle is like, what's going to happen now and what's going to happen down the road for stuff like this. And it's remarkable. I was just thinking about this earlier today. Like, I saw this picture on social media. This is what sparked the thought. George Floyd dies. Major cities across the nation, fires, rioting, looting, just more fights, more chaos, more violence, more deaths, more everything, more of all that stuff that incited. A white guy exercising his freedom of speech, doing nothing wrong, not a convicted felon, not in drugs, nothing wrong, no record, not like George Floyd, no record. A white guy dies, and people are praying, and people are asking for justice in the right ways. People are just standing with him and with his family. People are mourning. People are crying. People are grieving. It is a drastic different response between these two ideologies that have just clashed. One ideology is the real author of violence, and the other ideology is willing to work within the parameters of the Constitution and still make change. Like, we're not changing with bullets and fires and looting. That's not. I don't think that's the response to have. Yeah, I'm angry too. Like, I am super angry, and like, my flesh totally wants this guy to be dragged out in the middle of public television and executed. Like, a lot of people are speaking that as well. The struggle is, the Bible says that our enemies are not the flesh. It's powers and principalities. What drove this young man, 22 years old, supposedly, allegedly, in custody right now as I speak. It just got released earlier this morning. What drove this person to do it? Maybe he was paid, maybe he wasn't. I'm not going down the conspiracy rabbit hole. All the stuff that's out there that I've read and I've seen, like, there's a lot of it is far-fetching for me, and a lot of it is okay. That might be believable. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Whatever is true, whatever. It doesn't matter. What drove this person, money or not, paid off or not, told to or not, doesn't matter. Independently did this himself or some bad actor behind it, doesn't matter. What drove this person to do it was the enemy. It was Satan. It was demonic. That's what drives stuff like this through a person. God acts and Jesus acts on this earth through people. Satan does the same thing through the negative thoughts, the bad thoughts. You see, I heard this from a pastor a while ago, that if you're going down through depression and anxiety and you're going down these negative thoughts and you start to hear, you're so far down that road and you start to hear you're nothing, you're this, you're worth nothing, you're damaged goods, you should kill yourself. When you're hearing those types of words, that's a demon. Like, that's demonic. That is Satan's tentacles being driven into you to cause a change and for you to do something that is completely wrong. Because he acts through the negative space of the mind. I started reading this book completely unrelated to everything that's happened. I just made the decision to read this book last week. It's by Napoleon Hill. It's called Outwitting the Devil. And I've read it a couple of times. The premise is that Napoleon Hill had an interview conversation with the devil. Believe it or not, these types of books and stories, whether you want to believe it or not, these have been written multiple times. C.S. Lewis wrote a book like this as well, the Screwtape Letters. I would highly recommend both of them. But remarkably, there is some surprising truth to some of the things that they wrote about. And I'm more familiar with Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil, but he talks about the devil, Satan, acting within the negative space of your mind. He speaks and he acts in the negative space of the mind, in the negative. That's what it is. And that's what drove this young man to do something like this. It's the enemy. It's Satan. Yes, I want to be angry at the person, but it's what is that saying? Love the sinner, but hate the sin. I struggle with that too, because I am human. Like, of course, I want just the absolute most ruthless retaliation. Of course, yes, absolutely. But in the grand scheme of things, like what in 5 years, I heard this from a pastor. He said that if it doesn't matter in 10,000 years, then it probably doesn't matter. Like us going on a right wing bloodfest, lashing out because of this. I don't think that's the answer. I don't think that is more death and more violence and more killing. I don't think that's the answer. I think we should be more vocal. I think we should be more active in the right ways. I think we change that not with bullets, but if it gets to that, it's the right wingers that are armed who do exercise their Second Amendment. And that's why you have the Second Amendment. Because if somebody isn't willing to uphold your First Amendment, then you have the right to your Second Amendment to make a change. That's why it's there. That's why it's the Second Amendment. It's right after the freedom of speech and expression and religious beliefs and faith. Like that's why it's there. So if it gets to that point, there's nothing to be worried about. The right ringers. That's a really hard word to say fast. I have to think about it every time. I don't think that's the answer, and I don't think that's going to matter in 10,000 years. I just really don't think so. I think that Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. That's not the answer. But I think the answer is to be more vocal. I think the answer is to be more active. If you have a voice and you agree with the things that Charlie says, and you agree with the things that are true and right in this world, in this country especially, like, I think you have an obligation as a citizen to be more vocal, to stand up to the everyday stuff, whether that's your wife who may not disagree with you, or your spouse, and for females, if they disagree with you, if that is with your parents, your friends. I think it's your duty to stand up against those negative ideologies. I think it's your right and your to stand up against that. And if you have a platform, you do it there too. Like, I've been so torn between posting on social media now. Like, okay, I own a business and I create content and I make videos, and I'm a filmmaker and I make videos. I feel so small right now over everything that's happened over the past 3 years. I feel incredibly small. Like, what am I doing? And I don't, and yeah, part, like, struggling with, like, the opportunity, like, do I change everything now and do something else? I don't think that's the answer. But I think that at least speaking about some of this stuff is partly the answer. But I'd have to ask myself, like, Charlie Kirk, who believes in this country, who believes in the Christian faith and the Bible like I do, who exercised his freedom of speech, like, what would he want me to do in this situation? And I kind of choose to believe that he would want me to exercise my freedom of enterprise, my freedom of speech, to continue on. Keep building your business. Keep providing for your family. You are, kind of him, like, this imaginary conversation between me and him, like him saying, like, you are a business owner providing for your family, entering into the grandest game of America, of capitalism, and providing potentially jobs. Like, I've contracted other people. I've provided jobs for other people for short terms. I get it. But nonetheless, like, supporting the economy and being an entrepreneur and taking the risk that a lot of people aren't willing to take. Like, that's where my role is in this. Yeah, I totally feel small about making videos and making content and sports videos. I kind of do, honestly, right now. Like, just the amount of things and the impact that some of the things that have happened to what I do, I feel so unimportant. But that's saying it's the principle of the matter. I'm a business owner. I am exercising my right to freely enterprise in a business, in an economy, in my local area, in my community, to provide a service to people, to provide for my family. That's what men and women have done for a very long time. And I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not doing it in a wrong way. I'm not scamming people. I'm not doing anything like that. I am providing a service. I am getting paid for that service. I am an entrepreneur. I am a business owner. I employ other people. I have conversations with other people about how I can help them and their business and their brand. I have to believe that that is what he would want me to do, because it's like, you don't just change everything in your life, and some people might be called to do that. I have seen multiple stories of people just kind of sacrificing their following or their platform on social media. Maybe they were running, I saw this one post, they were running a wine and winemakers and wine lovers, page on social media. Like, that's what they were doing, is all about wine. And they have completely made a switch and turned over to faith-filled conservative content. I've seen multiple Twitter accounts speaking. True or not, bot or not, AI or not, okay, whatever. And some of them are just saying, like, I've lost thousands, tens of thousands, 50,000 followers just by publicly saying, I am done with creating content for wine. I am going to start entering into the fray of speaking truth all the time. And that is my platform now. That is it. I am now a conservative, truth speaking, that some people obviously called to do that right now. And I get why they would too. I'm having the same struggle here too. Should I change my whole platform on certain social media platforms? Like, should I do that? And I don't think that's the answer. But I can't. I'm gonna be honest. I'm struggling with that, and I have to choose to believe that I have to continue doing what I've been doing, because just like unfortunately the girl that was stabbed a week or two ago, before this, like, she came to America, fled war-torn Ukraine, and entered the job market to provide for herself, her family, just doing the American dream. The freedom to get a job, the freedom to, unfortunately, the freedom, public transit. Some bad actor, though, had to do something, but just we couldn't protect her right to life. That's the scary part. Like, she came here to flee war and to come here, get a job, be free to live, do the things that she wants to do, obviously in an ethical and legal way. She just wanted to have a life, and somebody took that from her. I just want to have a life. I want to own a business. Obviously one of the few crazy people who want to do that. And I just want to provide for my family. I want to provide for my kids. And that's why people come to America. And I'm just choosing to believe that that is what I am going to continue to do, is to build my business, to provide for my family, provide a service to other people, to other businesses and other brands. I've been doing my best to just kind of culminate my thoughts and try to process this stuff over the past couple of days, to make this video, because I didn't even want to make, I just didn't want to, but it's a freedom of speech. This is my right to do it, to make content like this, to honor Charlie Kirk in speaking about this stuff on a platform that I might have. I'm free to do this, and I'm honoring him in doing that, and I'm honoring America for continuing to do the American dream, be an entrepreneur, provide a service, be a producer in this country, and not just a consumer. I think that is my role, and I'm not going to say purpose, but I think that's my role. That's my position right now in America. And to continue living out my Christian beliefs, my American beliefs and values and standards, to uphold the Constitution, to live by the Bible as best as I possible. I still mess up all the time. I'm not perfect. No one is. Yeah, those are my thoughts as of right now. I think it's kind of a long video so far. And if you've lasted this long, appreciate it. If you want to follow, great. If not, great. If you don't even have to follow. Like, if you like this type of content, drop it a thumbs up. Those are my thoughts. You've probably gathered my beliefs as well, and where I stand on certain things and my standards. Gosh. It's still pretty surreal. Prayers out to Erica and his two little kids. Yeah. We'll miss you, Charlie. We will.